high above a quiet green valley. Hidden inside the branches of the tallest tree, lived a tiny bird named Pip. Every morning, the forest filled with beautiful sounds. Birds swooped through golden sunlight. They danced between trees. They glided across shining rivers. But Pip stayed quietly inside the nest, watching, dreaming, worrying. What if I fall? What if my wings are too weak? What if everyone laughs at me? Those thoughts circled endlessly inside Pip's tiny heart. His sister Sunny flew proudly through the sky every day. She circled the nest excitedly and smiled warmly. "Come on, Pip. You can do it." But every time Pip stepped near the edge, his tiny legs trembled, and he quickly stepped back again. Meanwhile, Mossy crashed into leaves once again. Branches shook everywhere. Feathers flew into the air. And for the very first time that day, Pip laughed. A tiny laugh, but a real one. At sunset, when the sky turned soft orange and gold, Pip secretly practiced tiny wing flaps alone inside the nest. He tried again, and again, and again, but he still could not fly. Days passed, then weeks. One by one, the other birds learned to fly across the endless valley. But Pip quietly watched from behind the leaves, feeling smaller every day. One rainy evening, while soft thunder rolled across the mountains, Pip sat quietly inside the nest staring at the storm. Rain tapped softly against the leaves. The sky looked cold and far away, and Pip wondered if he would ever be brave enough. That night, Grandmother Bird gently wrapped her warm wings around him. She never rushed him, never forced him. Instead, she simply stayed beside him, listening quietly to the rain. Then softly, Grandmother Bird pointed toward the giant trees swaying in the storm. "The strongest trees," she whispered, "are not the ones untouched by wind." She looked lovingly into Pip's frightened eyes. "They are the ones that learn to keep standing while shaking." That night, Pip could not stop thinking about those words. Moonlight drifted softly through the leaves above the nest. And somewhere deep inside his tiny heart, something slowly began to change. The next morning, the forest awakened glowing after the rain. Tiny water droplets sparkled on every leaf. Golden sunlight stretched across the valley. Everything felt peaceful, beautiful, alive. Slowly, Pip walked toward the edge of the nest. His tiny legs trembled. The wind brushed gently against his feathers. And below him, the valley stretched farther than ever before. Pip looked down at the enormous world below. Huge rivers, endless trees, floating clouds. For a moment, the sky felt far too big for someone as small as him. Then suddenly, a strong gust of wind shook the branch violently. Pip slipped and fell. The world rushed around him. Leaves blurred past his tiny wings. Wind roared through his feathers. Fear exploded inside his chest. Terrified, Pip spread his tiny wings as wide as he could. For one frightening moment, everything became completely silent. Then, something incredible happened. The wind lifted gently beneath his wings. Slowly, Pip stopped falling. For the very first time in his life, Pip was flying. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but flying. Sunlight touched his feathers. Clouds drifted beside him, and the whole magical valley opened beneath the sky. High above the forest, the other birds cheered excitedly around him. Sunny laughed happily beside her brother. Even Mossy flew in crooked circles through the clouds. And Pip could not stop smiling. The world no longer looked frightening. It looked beautiful. The rivers shimmered like silver. The forests glowed softly in the morning light. And the sky that once terrified him now felt endless with wonder. When Pip finally landed beside Grandmother Bird, his tiny body was still shaking. But this time, he was smiling too. Grandmother Bird gently touched his head with her wing. "You were scared the whole time," she whispered softly. Pip nodded. "I still am." The old bird smiled warmly. "That's what makes it courage." From that day on, Pip continued flying farther every morning. Some days were still difficult. Some winds still frightened him. But little by little, his wings grew stronger, and so did his heart. And high above the quiet green valley, a tiny bird with trembling wings continued flying through the golden sunset. Not because he was fearless, but because he finally believed he could try.